Oh, so I'm not going to go much further here because I was going to try to be done at 8:30 my time, but I do want to mention Kristi Noem's obscene post, and just to tell you, I've got something coming about this, but it's going to be a long video and a long article, but I think it's going to be an important one. And the video that I made, I ended up not sharing it because it's dealing with difficult things that I think I want to be careful because it's talking about. So here's this image of Kristi Noem with, I've shared this before and I wrote a couple of articles, and I don't mean to pick on Kristi Noem, but somebody has to. So it's going to be me and hopefully a lot of other people until she stops being, I could say either until she gets a better character or she stops being director of Homeland Security. And I just think if it goes this deep, the quicker route is for her to stop being director of Homeland Security and then work on the character. So she posts this sort of video, and the article and the video that I wrote was about something she said that was I called it obscene. And I want to be careful when I say that it was obscene, that it's not just the sexuality of it. It was the power dynamic. It's the fact that she spouts Christian, talking points, and then she says this sort of thing. So this other thing that she does here, this picture, which I've probably shared other times, of her all, decked out with the gun and everything. And so what she'd said recently, I'll show it here. And so what she said recently was in response to a case that some migrants had brought against her and against the, U.S. government, saying basically that they were denied due process being sent to Guantanamo Bay. And then they ended up dropping the case. They chose to drop it because several of them were deported in the meantime. And for whatever reason, others, the rest also dropped the case, which is something that people do. And she wrote, "Suck it, Secretary Kristi Noem." And so this is the person who's most responsible, other than Donald Trump, for the deportations. And this was her response to somebody daring to challenge her authority. And so the thing that I'm working on, I'll just give you a preview of it. The thing that I'm working on is dealing with this idea of, I have so much trouble knowing how to talk about her because she's, ostensibly, I think you could say objectively, visually, she cares about her appearance, okay? And her appearance is part of her story. Her appearance is part of her brand. And it's hard for me to know how to talk about that. But at some point, I have to just address what's going on. The obscenity in her post was, yes, the sexual domineering language that she used. And you can get into this whole, I thought you guys were against transgender, why is she using that? But whatever. But the main issue is the obscenity of a Christian using this sort of power and control dynamic. And I would say eroticizing violence, eroticizing domination of the other. And that's a really hard topic to talk about. And so I've been doing some reading about it so that I can do it better than what I did in the video that I'm not sharing, because I think it's actually important. And so I listened to a New York Times, I wish I had a link that I could show you, but you can look for it, a New York Times podcast. It was about 20 minutes long on the MAGA Beauty Aesthetic. And I was glad that these two women did this podcast because I don't want to talk about the MAGA Beauty Aesthetic. Anything that I say is going to sound sexist or whatever, but there is a MAGA Beauty Aesthetic that I think we can recognize. and you can see a person and say, I think she wants to be, director of Homeland Security based on what she's doing to her face. I don't know. This is what I think. I think this is a real thing. So, so I'm glad that they talked about the MAGA beauty aesthetic, and they did talk about how in the end, there's reasons, all of us, for myself, I wore a tuxedo at the wedding. That's an aesthetic. It was an aesthetic choice. And I wore one of my favorite hats. So I'm not against aesthetics, and we communicate something with all of our aesthetics. We're all intentionally communicating. With my hat, I'm communicating that a doctor told me years ago not to let the sun shine on my head anymore because it was damaging my bald head. So I need to wear a hat. So I decided, okay, I'm going to wear one that I like rather than one that just keeps the sun off of my head. It's not that I'm trying to be or do any, but I do like it. So I get it. So people can look however they want to look. But there's a MAGA beauty aesthetic. That's part of what's going on. But the other part that is much deeper than this, and this is the one that's hard to talk about, is the eroticization of, is that a word? The eroticizing, the sexualizing of dominance and power. And I read an article while I was on vacation about this because I just want to get some wisdom on this to know how to talk about it. I read an article by Susan Sontag that she wrote in 1974 called Fascinating Fascism. And it's all about the fascist aesthetic. And it's about the eroticization. It's exactly what we're seeing. It's exactly Kristi Noem and some others are playing along to a thing that has been going on before us. We can learn by reading history about how certain groups, certain authoritarians have used certain ideals of beauty and sexualization of power in ways that are very attractive to some people. And so I look at her and I think she's a dimwit. Probably you do too. There's a whole lot of people who look at those pictures and want to make her president. There's something that works. There's something that works deep in the heart of people. And it doesn't matter if you're an American in the 21st century or you're a German in the 20th century. They're appealing to things. They're pushing buttons that work. When you push the button, you get the result. I think we have to be wise to this stuff. We have to talk about it. So I just thought the video that I made went about halfway as far as I wanted it to go. So I didn't release it, and I'm gonna just keep working on that. So that's something that'll be coming. And it's not an easy thing to talk about.